What is something perfectly legal that feels illegal? Driving when near a cop. Walking underneath the nothing to declare sign at customs even though you literally don't have anything to declare. Edit, obligatory thanks for the gold. Kind stranger. This happens to be my first rodeo. Walking through a metal detector always puts me on edge. Feel like out of nowhere I'm suddenly concealing a weapon. Taking a shit ton of samples and then buying nothing. Taking something into a store like Lowe's or Home Depot to make sure you can find the correct adapter or connection, then walking out with it and not paying for anything after not finding the correct connector. Turning left at a red light from a one-way street to another one-way street. Edit, for those asking or confused. I live in Ontario, Canada. First drive after getting a driver's license. Leaving a store without having bought anything. It's been years since I was in mandatory education, yet I still feel weird being out in town during the day on a school day. Waiting for someone on the street when there's a cop around. As a pet sitter for pets in my complex, even though people give me their key to get into their house, it still feels really weird entering someone's house, especially when I don't know them all that well. Quick tangent, one time, while leaving the person's house and locking the door behind me, a neighbor approached me at the end of the driveway and started talking to me. They were trying to be subtle, but it was clearly obvious that they thought I'd stolen something. Even after I showed them the key that the owners had given me and reassuring them that I was only there to feed the cat, I could still feel them watching me as I walked back to my place. Owning a flamethrower is legal in 48 states, California and Maryland require licensing. Stealing a balloon on Free Balloon Day. Driving at night with the dome light on in the car. After getting out of the Army, US, calling everyone at work by their first names, or using an umbrella. Buying alcohol for the first few months after turning 21. When you get a craving for cake in the middle of the night and try to open that damned plastic container and suddenly the whole damn neighborhood is awake and knows your shame. Unpaid internships, it's basically slavery if you don't get any connections from it. Taking money from a take a penny leave a penny tray, it's there for a purpose. But it would feel like I'm taking money that belongs to someone else if I did so. Collecting dead rats in the tunnels of the local sewage system and tying their tails together into a wreath. Sometimes this procedure brings them back to life, creating a cursed superorganism. I know there are no explicit laws against it, but I feel like God frowns upon it. Working in advertising, I find how much info I can collect on a specific individual is super creepy. As a general note, just don't sign up for newsletters. The stuff you unknowingly give companies on yourself is scary. Feels so creepy. Just your email and full name is enough for people to know your whole life if they put that stuff into FB or other networks. Ordering weed of a government website and smoking it in Canada. It's illegal to buy from a guy on the corner but okay from the government. And growing weed in your backyard, absolutely nuts. In a surprising amount of US states, you can have relations with someone aged 16. I always thought it was 18. Taking a shower while someone else is asleep and accidentally dropping one of the soap bottles. That shit is far louder than if you were home alone or if everyone was awake. Riding the elevator facing backwards. Smoking weed. In my state, growing up when it was illegal, I have a Pavlovian paranoia built into the smell of burning cannabis. Eating popcorn with sushi at 4 a.m. Showering in your socks. Paying lots of money to get a politician to do what you want them to do. Selling subprime mortgages to people who absolutely cannot afford them, and back-end bundling them as investment funds to resell to investors. Betting they will fail and taking out insurance against that failure with the purpose of getting rich off the insurance while all the investors in those funds go broke. The housing economy bursts and the entire global economy suffers. It happened. We bailed out the banks. America lost its shirt and not one move has been made to make this fully unethical practice illegal. When the hospital billed me for my 38 hours stay, to the tune of $97. Walking on the middle of an asphalt road with no cars around makes me feel like a teenage movie rebel. Leaving your house in sweatpants with no intention of working out. Turning on the lights in the car while driving at night. The biggest adulthood plot twist was discovering an entire generation had been convinced it was illegal. Driving in front of an ambulance. Edit, I meant one without the lights on. Cereal with water. Walking naked from the bathroom to the kitchen to the bedroom in the AM. Calmly walking past a police officer anywhere in the world at any time. This is often accompanied by the awkwardness of deciding whether or not to acknowledge their presence. Before coming to a decision about how to best handle this encounter, the officer will look at you. At this point your brain is so far beyond its intended capacity for directing your body to maintain normal composure that your gait pattern breaks down as your arms begin to swing out of sync with your legs. This dissonance is just noticeable enough make it look as if you're considering an immediate sprint in the opposite direction away from the officer. Then as you decide to offer up a smile to politely acknowledge the officer's glance, it's then inevitable that you become consciously aware of this internal struggle to use your limbs in a normal way such that the mental effort required to regain your normal stride detracts from that which was momentarily dedicated to smiling. The result is that only half the muscles in your face respond very asymmetrically. The eventual expression is one that conveys your internal state of complete emotional disarray with total clarity. As you pass the officer and realize you're safe, the next 30 minutes is spent mulling over your life to figure out what the hell is wrong with yourself that you can become so easily crippled consequent to an entirely trivial interpersonal encounter. Finishing the ice cream. Shower beers. Ariana Grande. Standing at the little cheese sample table at the grocery store. Eating countless samples, making eye contact with, but not actually speaking to the cheese lady. My record was 6 minutes and it's harder than you think. In Oregon, I can take a left turn from a two-way street onto a one-way street against a red light. On Halloween when those people leave a bowl out that says take one so you dump all the candy out and take the bowl, because it's a nice ceramic bowl, I meant take more than one packet of Swedish fish. I have read and agree to the above. Tannerite. Every time I check mark a box saying under penalty of perjury, I certify everything above is true. Driving in bare feet. Putting a blockade over Naboo. Taking your first newborn home from the hospital with no prior training or experience. Being able to think of whatever you want no matter how cruel it is and no one being able to see what you're thinking. The entire YouTube ad/copyright/monetization system and companies blatantly stealing money from people, although I guess nobody else agrees because everyone still uses YouTube and supports companies that act like this. If we want to convince Google to stop, I think we'd need to boycott YouTube. But nobody seems to give a shit and they still make millions. The library. The fact that you can just hang out there for hours, use the computers and then leave with a huge stack of books and movies without paying a cent is very surreal for 2019. Not leaving a tip. Swearing in front of an officer.